and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Heather Myers. Here at CBS 8, we are working for you, and we're getting to the bottom of problems you've asked about. We are looking for solutions. We begin with the future Otay Mesa East Port of Entry. Sandag now says the opening of the toll road border crossing could be delayed until 2028. And as CBS 8's David Gottfredson reports, there are new concerns about Sandag moving the toll readers into Mexico.
We're building a 21st century border with a business model that doesn't exist anywhere else.
The Otay Mesa East Port of Entry was supposed to open in 2024. It will be built 2 miles east of the current Otay Mesa crossing. But construction delays have now extended the opening date as far off as 2028, according to the San Diego Association of Governments.
We will not be able to give you an exact open to traffic date.
South of the border, the Mexican government says its work on the port of entry will be finished on schedule in September.
I know Mexico is already ahead of us.
Sandag staff has blamed the delays in the U.S. on negotiations with Customs and Border Protection and the General Services Administration. Those are the federal agencies that would normally be in charge of building a port of entry, but in this case, Sandag and Caltrans are building it using a unique funding source. The $1.3 billion crossing will collect tolls on vehicles.
It was decided that we were going to help ourselves by helping the federal government.
Mario Orso is Sandag's new CEO.
I take full responsibility for it.
Brought in after the former CEO resigned last year amid toll collecting errors and mismanagement of the State Route 125 toll road. Orso is now overseeing the transition to a new tolling system for State Route 125 operated by a new company. And that new system may also be used to collect future tolls at Otay Mesa East, raising some concerns.
A possible question is, hey, you know, we're having issues on the 125, so how can you get your act together on this one that may be a little bit more complicated?
Over the next 40 years, Sandag and Caltrans plan to share an estimated $8 billion in toll revenue from Otay East in a 50-50 split with Mexico.
The potential revenue for Sandag is just crazy.
A problem developed earlier this year when the Federal Highway Administration told Sandag toll money collected on highways cannot be shared with Mexico, leading Sandag to announce a last-minute change.
The primary toll readers, instead of being on State Route 11, we're moving them to the Mexican side of the border. Then the actual toll transaction, which is electronic, will be happening in Sandag's tolling center.
Sandag says it plans to install a secondary toll reader on the U.S. side in case the Mexican toll readers go down.
We have full control of the operation.
David Gottfredson, CBS 8.
Now, Sandag claims border wait times could be cut to 20 minutes at the new crossing. The agency says toll costs will fluctuate depending on traffic between $4 and $30 per vehicle. Working for you, there are several new laws that went into effect at the start of this month. We begin with laws affecting gun owners in California. Now, gun owners will have to pay an additional 11% excise tax on firearms and ammo. The money collected from the tax will be deposited into the Gun Violence Prevention and School Safety Fund. One legal analyst that we spoke to said it is expected to raise more than $150 million in additional revenue in the first year alone.
Excise tax is designed to generate revenues for the purpose of educating the public in how to prevent gun violence and promote gun safety.
Gun owners are now essentially paying a 30% tax on these purchases. Another law requires all stores and credit card companies to create a system to track credit card purchases on guns and ammo so the state can access that information. Another new law that went into effect on July 1st is giving renters more protection. The new law will cap the amount a landlord can charge for a security deposit at just 1 month's rent. Right now, the average deposit runs between 1 to 2 months' rent, but it can sometimes be as high as 3 times, which, based on the average rent in San Diego, could be more than $9,000.
Nobody has that big hunk of cash to lay down to get into an apartment, you know, usually.
Any act to help people trying to get a new home or new place, I'm all for it.
But a lot of landlords are not on board with the new law. The California Apartment Association says, quote, further limiting a property owner's ability to financially cover property damage or unpaid rent is an unfair imposition for rental housing providers, unquote. The city of San Diego will be spending significantly more than it has in the past to repair local swimming pools over the next 3 years. As CBS 8's Isabella Roberts tells us, renovations are set to begin at the end of the summer.
As San Diego heats up, more and more people will be coming to community pools like Claremont. Now they, along with several other pools in the city, will be receiving some money for some much needed repairs. Over the next 3 years, the city of San Diego's budget for pool repairs will grow from $3 million to $12 million.
That whatever they're going to utilize the money for, I think it'll be beneficial to everyone.
Chanel Thomas signed her kids up for swim lessons at Kearney Mesa's community pool, where $1.2 million is going to be spent on repairs.
It's amazing that the city is prioritizing that. It allows kids that do not have the opportunities to have a swimming pool to be able to come here and utilize the swimming pool here in their communities.
The first two pools to be renovated will be Claremont, where the budget will be $1.2 million, and the Martin Luther King Jr. pool in Encanto with a budget of $750,000. The work at the two pools will be partly funded by a state grant that's separate from the budget increase. Both are expected to start improvements after the summer season. 5 pools are getting more than $1 million from the deal. $1.2 million for the Claremont pool, $1.5 million for the Carmel Mountain pool, $1.3 million for the Swanson pool in University City, $1.3 million for the Kearney Mesa pool, and $1.5 million for the Tierra Santa pool. The Vista Terrace pool in San Isidro will be getting $750,000 as well. The city tells me that following the pools in Claremont and Encanto, repairs will be addressed on a case-by-case basis as the funds become available when the pools are closed for the season. Thomas hopes that these repairs allow for patrons to enjoy a dip in the pool.
I hope that more families come and utilize this opportunity with this grant that they receive so that all kids can learn how to swim.
In San Diego, Isabella Roberts, CBS 8.
Well, still ahead, concerns for what some consider is a so-called wonder drug. We're taking a look at proposed rules for Kratom and hear from a local man about the adverse effects that he experienced. Then later on, self-driving taxis put to the test. We'll show you some of the flaws that still need to be fixed. And don't forget, we want to look into some of the issues affecting you and your community. Email us at workingforyou@cbs8.com. We'll be right back. Tonight, we're taking a closer look at an herbal substance called Kratom. It's been marketed as a wonder drug. Some people use it to have more energy. Others say it helped them beat their addiction to drugs. But critics say it can be addictive and deadly. The powder form of Kratom was banned nearly a decade ago here in San Diego. But as CBS 8's Kelly Hessedal found, you can still buy it here.
Travis Thompson says he was trying to find a way to beat his alcohol addiction, but he still wanted to be social. He still wanted to have a good time. He stumbled upon Kratom and says in the beginning, it was incredible.
It made me feel like I found the answer. It made me feel like I found the key to the mint. It was an easy transition. I mean, I got off alcohol almost instantly.
33-year-old Travis Thompson says he started drinking Kratom tea and then moved on to powders.
It's a whole different thing. And you're like, whoa, you know, I've found the answer. Like I've never had this positivity. I've never had this energy.
But he says the more he used it, the higher the dose he needed.
It took about 6 months before I found myself in a full-blown opioid addiction. I mean, there was times where during my dosings, I was dosing so high, I was going temporarily blind. I was almost like having seizures. I couldn't hold my hands still. It would be doing like this.
Kratom is a tropical tree native to Southeast Asia. Its leaves have historically been used for medicinal purposes. It's often used to treat pain, anxiety, and opioid addiction. However, the FDA says the substance is addictive and warns people not to use Kratom because of the risk of serious adverse effects. A CDC report from 2019 found Kratom was a cause in 91 overdose deaths in 27 states. And there have been lawsuits, including this California class action suit against MIT 45 Inc., accusing the company of misleading consumers about the addictive nature of their products. Critics say what you often see in stores is contaminated with other things, and the amount of the leaves' naturally occurring psychoactive compounds, metragenine and 7-hydroxymetragenine, is unregulated.
California, despite the fact that we are the state with the highest levels of kratom use, we are also the state that lacks any regulations.
Democratic State Assembly member Matt Haney of San Francisco introduced Assembly Bill 2365, the Kratom Safety Act, which would ban the sale of adulterated kratom in California, enforce rigorous testing and registration with the California Department of Health. It would prohibit those under 21 from purchasing it, though 7 states and some counties have banned kratom altogether. Haney says that's not his goal.
There are people who use kratom safely. They use it in some cases for important purposes like replacing other much more dangerous substances like opioids or alcohol. Some use it simply for energy in various ways, and they should be able to continue to do that if they are adults.
San Diego is one of 2 California cities that bans the sale of kratom powder. It did so in 2016.
Just the middle one, if you can.
However, you can still go down the street and buy some, just as we did at a smoke shop in Kearny Mesa. Retailers have no clue about the law. There's a Kratom Kava bar in Solana Beach. CBS 8 reached out to the owner for comment, but did not hear back. On its website, it reads, Kratom is non-habit forming unless taken in extremely high doses for extended periods of time. If taken in excess continuously over long periods of time, Kratom consumers may experience dependence similar to caffeine dependence.
The young crowd is extremely vulnerable to this plant. This plant is only for extreme situations.
Thompson says he was able to stop using kratom after doing some research online.
I'm not alone. There are people out there just like me that are walking blindly into this plant and using it willy-nilly, not giving it the respect that this plant deserves.
And Thompson has now been sober more than 2 months. His wife recently gave birth to their first child. As for AB 2365, it is headed to the state Senate, where it will go through committee and then to the Senate floor. Kelly Hessedal, CBS 8.
Well, CBS 8 reached out to the San Diego Police Department to ask why kratom powder is still being sold in the stores here. A lieutenant with the narcotics unit told us it's still a problem and something that they take seriously, and that the department must balance resources and drug enforcement efforts across the city. But the lieutenant tells us that when issues come up, they are fully investigated. Still to come, we go for a test drive in a self-driving taxi. We'll show you what happened as state lawmakers consider new regulations. Tonight, Kearny Mesa business owners and customers say they are upset over the installation of bike lanes on Convoy Street. They say now there's not as much parking available in an already jam-packed area. The city of San Diego is working with the Convoy District to create a plan to improve the situation by creating what they call a parking district. For now, though, customers tell us they worry for the businesses in the area.
I try to schedule my appointments first thing in the morning, always and only because that's the only time that I can ever get a parking place. Is when you drive around for 5 or 10 minutes and you can't find a place to park, then you leave. Eventually you won't come back.
The city tells us there is no set timeline for solutions to be implemented, but they will be asking for community input. Right now, many tech companies are still in the testing phase as they try to roll out more self-driving cars on our streets. In San Francisco, anyone can hail a self-driving taxi just with the press of a button. Kevin Coe went for a ride to see how the cars perform.
10 months after Waymo's soft opening last August, now anyone can ride in one of its robo-taxis across San Francisco. Demand could also be very high. That's because Waymo says about 300,000 people joined a wait list just to have a chance to ride in one of these. But not everyone is so sure just yet.
Wow, that's something.
This is Paul Fuentes' first time seeing a Waymo robo-taxi up close.
It's a nice looking vehicle. It even has room for luggage and whatnot.
But this is as close as Paul plans to get.
You wouldn't get in this thing?
No, regardless of whether they were drunk or able or whatnot. Having a human making the choice rather than a machine is a little bit more comforting.
Similar to Uber and Lyft, anyone can call a Waymo through the Waymo One app. Unlock the doors through your phone, hop inside, and start your ride.
I can see why Paul was a little hesitant because, yeah, that is kind of weird for the first time at least. But I do gotta say, so far, mostly smooth.
Riding in a Waymo can include some sudden braking. And during one pickup in the Mission District, my Waymo didn't park at the curb, but instead stopped in the middle of the single-lane street, blocking traffic. This driver had to go into the opposite lane, avoiding incoming traffic, before the Waymo car eventually got the idea and pulled over to the curb.
We're going to have real congestion problems, and at times we're going to have more serious problems. We've already seen accidents and collisions.
State Senator Dave Cortese sees the potential in the technology, but thinks it needs more regulations.
It's a little bit of a wild, wild west situation. I don't think the individual passengers need to be fearful for their lives or anything like that. You're probably experiencing a comfortable drive yourself right now. We're not fear-mongering here. All we're really saying is there's some practical things that need to be in place, and they should be in place.
He's pushing for a bill to put regulatory power for automated vehicles in the hands of local governments.
It's going to keep improving and keep changing, and actually very rapidly, maybe even more rapidly than the pace at which we legislate. The local governments are in a really good position to deal with rapid change because they meet and they adopt laws and policies every Tuesday or every Wednesday.
Cortese pulled his bill after he says it was dwindled down by amendments, but he plans to reintroduce it in January. Until then, Waymo is up and running across San Francisco, but Paul is holding out.
If it's been tested for a few more years and I was more or less incapacitated and unable to drive, then I might.
San Francisco is now the second city in the country where anyone can ride in a Waymo taxi, joining Phoenix, where Waymo has been open for rides since 2020.
Working for your wallet now, State Farm is once again seeking a massive insurance rate hike for Californians. If approved, homeowners would see a 30% rate increase, condo owners 36%, and renters insurance could jump up by 52%. This comes on the heels of a recent rate hike of almost 20% as State Farm dropped many policyholders. The California Department of Insurance has to approve the rate changes. State Farm says the rate hikes are driven by increased costs and risk. But the insurance commissioner says the filings raise what he calls serious questions about State Farm's financial condition. All right, well, that is going to do it for us. Remember, if there is something that you would like us to look into, you can email us at workingforyou@cbs8.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.